Okay, folks, before I hit record here with Dane Cvetkovic, I was joking about the fact that I was likely to mispronounce his name because Dane, on Instagram, you Dane Cvetkovic to me the whole time. And so now, Dane, it's so good to have you. I've been a fan for the longest time, so thanks for joining our show, man. How are you?
Thank you. Very well. Looking forward to our conversation. I've heard a lot of your stuff, so now it's a good time to be seeing you in person, so to say.
Yeah, well, look, in terms of the accent contest, you're winning by a long way right now. Okay, before we get to know you, we were texting back and forth. And folks, I've been working to get Dane on here a long time because his Instagram feed is loaded with feels, thoughts, ideas, videos that are going to help your game, which is why I reached out. But you texted me and you're like, I have a thing about the whole theory of playing golf versus playing golf swing. And you had me there. I stopped reading after that statement. So let's start our conversation with that. Playing golf versus playing golf swing, because I think nowadays, with all this information everywhere, people tend to play more golf swing than they do golf.
100%. Yeah. That's the thing that I see come across most. Like we're bombarded with a lot of these information. I'm part of it myself. I give different kind of swing feels instead of course I like to focus more on feels instead of these swing kind of thoughts where we're too dialed in on the minuscule parts of the golf swing.
Mm-hmm.
But people are kind of expecting that once they perfect the look of their golf swing, that ball is going to go dead straight every time. But I was there as well myself. That's why I kind of understand now the flaw in that way of thinking is they were completely neglecting the actual impact part. Like what happens when that club hits the ball, what actually goes on right there, how is that ball flight created? And then, only then, once you understand these parts, you're going to look at your golf swing like, what can I now work on to improve that? Instead of just expecting that a random YouTube video with the newest swing thought is going to save you. That's the main issue. We're becoming golf swing junkies instead of trying to actually shoot lower scores.
Amen, brother. It's easy to become a golf swing junkie. I mean, there's,
Yeah.
like yours, there's so much good stuff over here. I spend, hours on end watching through all of your tips because they're easy to digest. And I'm like, yeah, maybe if I do that, and maybe if I do this. But the reality is, and this is where I want your commentary, because you're a professional golfer. Um, the golf swing on every shot you face on the golf course has got to be massaged a little bit. It's not like you hitting the perfect 7-iron from a perfect lie every single time. There's always one
Exactly.
other different variable we have to bear in mind, and that's where the whole playing golf thing comes in. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be training, literally practicing to shoot lower scores. So instead of just looking at the game as if it's something like something random, you kind of, what helped with me most is help me kind of demystify the game is understanding ball flights, like what actually happens when I miss a certain ball. Many
Mm-hmm.
people, even me, when I started playing off like a 2 handicap, I didn't completely get it. Like I was missing everything left, hooking them. And then I right away looked at my swing, like what can I change in this moment to actually get it straight, like recording myself a million times a day. But I still felt lost
Mm-hmm.
until I kind of understood, like, okay, there is something that I'm missing, and that is basically impact, understanding what happens when you hit the ball, kind of strike wise, as in club ball contact. You have ground contact wise, as in club ground contact, and then start line and club path. Those things, everything that you do in the swing should be related to improving one of those. Otherwise, it's pretty much useless, to be totally honest. And that's what I think what most people are doing is they're kind of practicing in a useless way in that sense, just by trying to perfect their technique without understanding what it's going to result to.
You've got a lot of videos, and I'm continuing along in this vein that you're on right now because I feel like there's gold at the end of this. You've got a lot of videos where you talk about feels and
Yeah.
feels that got you to scratch and feels that got you to +5 and this sort of thing. Um, and I want to go here because everyone's heard it. There's a big difference between feel and real. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this: when your mindset changed, and you're advocating that for all golfers, changed from golf swing to playing golf, did the feels change a lot too? Because I'm expecting perhaps in that mindset, it's not like you bound by this. My swing should look this way on a video camera.
Yeah.
Feeling where I'm going here.
Yeah, it definitely did. The thing that I started changing most is instead of, I don't know if I can explain this properly, but instead of going to swing thoughts, I'm now literally trying to go to swing feels in that sense. So I'm actually visualizing certain things, different kind of things that my body can then respond to, react to, instead of think its way to there, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so instead of me thinking of whatever, a certain position, I'm now visualizing different things that make me move in a certain way. Whatever it is, I visualize the strangest stuff, to be totally honest, but it did work. And that gives me the freedom to actually swing through it instead of trying to swing to something.
Yeah.
And that just helps a lot with consistency. That's what I've noticed.
Brilliant. I want to share this. Yesterday, I was giving a lesson. Good player, young lady. And I had a take on how I wanted the club to, it was just a pitch shot off a very tight sort of damp lie. And I was talking to her about how I wanted the club face to come into the ball in terms of its angle of descent. And she looked at me, she goes, okay, I understand you, but if I do that, I'm going to get my backswing, I'm going to get way too far in behind me to have to redirect too much. And all of a sudden, something inside my brain was like, just stop. She knows exactly what she needs to do. And so I guess there's a lesson in this for golf teachers as well, because sometimes we can get so wrapped up in something that we forget what the golfer has to do, like you, for argument's sake, to hit the shot when it means something under pressure.
Yeah, have to give it the clarity to actually, the thing, that's what I can notice for myself. Like I used to take lessons a lot. Like I got lessons and a coach was explaining stuff to me. However, if you don't understand as a player exactly what needs to happen, for example, down at impact, or why you're making the certain change, why the coach wants you to do certain things, as coaches, most of them kind of expect everyone to understand the ball flight laws, for example. Like for us, it's kind of second nature, but for most golfers, I do think they're unaware of exactly how a certain ball flight is created. And that's kind of, then there's going to be a mismatch if you're working on trying to get someone to do something without them actually understanding what's going on. And then I think changes can be made a lot easier if you just simplify stuff in that sense.
You're talking my language with understanding there, because knowledge is rampant, information is rampant on the internet.
Yeah.
But the understanding what's applicable to oneself is crucial. All right, you talked about feels and images and stuff. We got some great feels and thoughts that you're going to share. But before that, please tell the world, please tell our On the Mark tribe a little bit about you, how you came to where you are.
Interesting story. I used to be a very kind of diligent chess player, so to say. So I was more so addicted to that kind of stuff until golf came into my life, and then flipped the switch right away. So I got addicted, loved it ever since. Even now, after 14 years, I'm still in love with the game. Think it's beautiful. Think we are very blessed to do what we're doing, especially when you get the ability to travel and to see different places, to understand kind of golf is probably the greatest game there is. So that's one thing. And then besides that, I always had the kind of aspirations. Once I do something, I'm very competitive. So I kind of dive deep right away, practicing 10 hours a day as a kid. So took my life over in that sense. And now a couple of years ago, I decided to start posting on social media, as I was already a good player, I studied the game very meticulously. And I thought like, okay, this is going to be very honest. I knew I needed kind of sponsors and this kind of stuff. And nowadays, where the world is going, this kind of followers and all of that kind of thing is important for advertisements and all those things. That's why I originally started doing it, but now it's just became actually a hobby where I can help people, teach people what I learned, and then help everyone, so to say, on my own road to improvement.
Well, folks, if you haven't, you need to follow Dane. I mean, not only the tips good, the golf swing is freaking majestic to watch. You look powerful. I've got to go here. Your young man grew up in Serbia via the Netherlands, to now Dubai in the Emirates. It's been
Yeah,
taking you on a journey, huh?
yeah, definitely is. So now I had the chance to move out here, and it's definitely been a good decision. Especially in the winter months, you can't compare the 25 degrees Celsius to the freezing Netherlands or Serbia or wherever in Europe. So it's very good to be here.
Yeah, so cool. Okay, many posts on his Instagram feed, Dane Cvetkovic. I'll spell that when at the end of the conversation.
You do well. You do very well.
I'm trying my best. I'm Immelman, for goodness sake. Okay, you talk about feels, you talk about thoughts, you got lessons. You said you gravitated towards feels. So the fact I'm bringing you 4 swing thoughts makes me kind of feel a bit conspicuous. But anyway, I thought these swing thoughts had feels based to them. And you titled this post as if it was 4 of these swing thoughts that helped me get to scratch. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of golfers that want to get to scratch that are watching this or listening to this. And the reality is, as I looked through these, because I thought long and hard before I brought you these things, that the thoughts and the feels, whether you are a professional golfer or whether you're a rank beginner, these ones that you've put here, they'd help everybody. So I'm going to pitch you the thought, let you elaborate. And the first one, and this is on the heels of everything you said about understanding impact. And you had a beautiful example of the fact that every golf strike, you want someone to imagine a nail sticking straight through the equator of the golf ball. And that nail is looking down the target line. And you're like, just hammer that nail. So please go there. I think that image is, that thought is great.
Yeah, that is kind of one thing that I started doing to actually give the mind a clearer kind of sense of what it needs to accomplish down at impact. So what used to happen with me is I get like very technical and very engaged in thinking of how my body needs to move, but I completely neglected the actual impact part. How do I want my club face to come through impact? So visualizing that nail, someone told me, a coach told me that, started doing it, playing around with it, and I noticed it's like it's giving your brain kind of a mission of what it needs to accomplish. Like the more you give your brain a sense of direction, like where it needs to move towards, it's going to become a lot more consistent in that sense. Even to the point where now, if I start to, when I'm playing out on the golf course and I miss it left, for example, or too far right, I can simply just visualize that nail angled in a little bit of a more closed or more open direction, depending on the miss. And I just try to do that. As we all know, feel and real aren't always the same. So if my intention is to hit it straight, however, I'm missing it too far on either side, I can just kind of play around with that.
I want to ask this. I love that because you're just moving the angle of the nail given where the miss is going. I would
tiny bit.
Yeah, a tiny bit. I would expect too, like now I'm thinking of a putt stroke, I'm thinking of an iron stroke, and I think of a driver stroke. You know, the putt, you're trying to drive it straight through the nail. The iron stroke is a little more downward, and the driver is a bit more upward. Do you go that way with the visuals as well?
I do not. That comes for me more for how I'm kind of unloading away from the ground. That's kind of the sensation I have globally. But for everything, it's more regarding kind of face angle, where it's aimed, start line wise. For putting, I use it. It's been a game changer for my putts as well. In the thinking, like we get a lot of these thoughts, like I don't want to miss. I don't want to hit it in the hazard here, hazard there. Now you just have a simple task. Okay, hit that nail towards that target. Hit it straight. That kind of gives the brain the distraction from actually wanting to avoid missing it, and you're now just focusing on what you need to do. So it's definitely a good one to try for everyone out there.
Yeah, it's a great image. It's one too, like as you talk here, that I can imagine like a 9-inch nail through the middle of a ball, and you trying to strike it with one hammer blow. And
Yeah.
I want to say that too, because I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I've hammered something at the wall, I hit my finger. Okay. Where like the hammer head and the nail, that's a small interaction there. So if you're imagining the sweet spot of your golf club and the nail, this will really direct the quality of contact too, I would guess.
Guaranteed. Yeah. Just try to hit that thing in the sweet spot with a square club face, and you're going to be good to go. It's going to make a big difference in consistency levels, especially also same thing. That's why I said, like, I'm playing around with the opening and closing. If people are hitting it too far off the toe of the club, try to bring that, kind of try to visualize as if the heel of the club is striking it a little bit more. Then you're going to be rerouting it back to the sweet spot. You want to be playing around with these things to get the best outcome possible. Whatever you need to do for it, we all are looking to lower our scores, not to make the prettiest golf swings in that sense.
I guess, and I'm asking this just for posterity's sakes, because, we're all variable, stuff changes. And you talk about the variability of the strike. This isn't a consistent thing. I mean, we're not always there. Sometimes you're going to feel maybe a bit more in the heel or the toe, just whatever, given, the circumstance. Am I right in that?
Yep, definitely. And that's what you want to be both practicing. Like, that's, again, getting back to the play golf versus playing golf swing part. You have to be dialing in your actual strike skills in that sense.
Yeah.
And then from there, in the moment, things are going to change. One day you're going to be a little bit more sluggish. Next day you're feeling more energized. You may be getting some variability in strike there. So you have to be learning how to deal with these things as you go. That's what's going to make more of a consistent golfer, instead of the one that is just dialing in that kind of robotic swing.
Yeah, love it. Okay, I'm kind of going backwards here because they're sort of flowing in this direction for me too. The next one was, you say, and it was a video of your swing. You on the golf course, and it looked like it was kind of links golf, so windy. And you said you wanted to feel a stable club face post impact, and post impact was like a couple feet or so. Now I'm guessing this is a follow on to the nail, because if that face is flashing all over the show, the nail's not being hit properly. And obviously there'll be reaction post contact. So talk about the stable club face post impact, because everyone's talking pre impact.
Yeah, the post impact, again, it helped me a lot with giving a more stable club face at impact. So we're all too focused, even of course with the nail, which gives the brain more of that direction, but we're too focused on trying to hit the ball instead of swinging more through it. So if you actually try to get that kind of club face in a very strong, stable position coming through impact, impact will follow automatically. Also, what I try to do is release all the energy kind of post impact instead of at the ball. Because what many people, especially those that hook like their shots a lot, if you're flipping, feeling that club face being more stable in that post impact position will help with that. Like we want to be hitting at the ball. That's going to create more of those flippy hands, so to say. That's why it's helped me a lot. Been a notorious left miss kind of player, so I have my fair share of feels for that one.
Yeah, and I guess on the other side of that problem, if you're a slicer of the golf ball, the more stable club face could be a bit more closed, because you're addressing where your ball flight's going. Like, you're trying to feel like it's stable and a tad open to straighten the flight open because of the feel. So I'm guessing wherever we fit on the shot spectrum here, post impact is kind of how the face needs to look to straighten out our golf shots.
Exactly. Just trying to feel it a little bit more closed coming through impact. Then you're going to be reacting. Again, we're giving just the brain kind of images that it needs to be moving towards that are far away from our actual kind of that technique movement that everyone is too focused on. So giving the brain a very clear task with that nail, with that kind of post-impact position, is definitely a good one.
I want to throw this at you along these lines, because I'd heard Nick Felder say to me one time, he said when he was playing his best, world's number one, he had one backswing and like 5 or 6 different follow-throughs. The high, the low, the draw, the fade, that sort of thing. And you keep on talking about through the ball, and you talk about, swinging through it as opposed to at it. I'm sort of loving where you're going here, because you're right. So many golfers, the harder the shot becomes, the more it's just like, well, I've just got to hit this ball kind of thing, and where you're saying, hey, through the ball, stable club face all the way to the finish.
Exactly. Yes. And that's going to it's going to bring more freedom into the game when you know what you want to be doing more so post impact. We all know, like, those players that kind of lose their balance at the top of the swing. That's one other part of it. You're making sure that you're swinging into a full, stable, solid finish position. It's going to lead to more stability, more consistency overall. But we're too dialed in on the rest, on trying to dial in that perfect top of the backswing position, and completely neglecting kind of what happens after impact. I fix most of my ball flight issues by focusing on that post-impact position. not on anything that happens before, in that sense.
Well, I will say from watching all your footage, you hit the ball hard, but you're never out of balance in the follow through.
No.
No.
Yeah.
And I've heard many a leading golfer say, you know, when they give clinics and stuff, and you get the questions, so what must I do in my swing? Generic. And they'll be like, hey, just finish in balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very important. Yeah.
That's so important. Okay. To that now we've had a couple contact, post-contact thoughts, feels. And now I want to go into backswing and then transition. And the backswing drill you had was beautiful. It's an age-old it's an age-old thought that I feel like so many people misinterpret, because now in the era of ground reaction forces and lateral shifts and vertical shifts and stuff, they're missing on this sort of thing. And you like in my backswing, I just try and imagine I'm turning inside of a barrel, and the barrel you had there looked like a wine vat, which is good. And you're just going back and forth inside that thing. But what it's doing is you turning. The shift is good, but there's nothing excessive left and right. So you're really centering yourself throughout the swing.
Exactly. Making sure that you're turning around that kind of stable spine. That visual has helped me a lot. Well, my tendency is to just sway off of it a little bit too much. So then again, you can start going into these swing kind of thoughts, like focusing on certain whatever body parts. But I'm just trying to give my brain that kind of image that it can then freely respond to, which is exactly this: swinging inside of a barrel or a bottle, whatever. I literally just visualize my torso being stuck inside of something, and then I don't want to be hitting the sides. I just want to be twisting up and back, coiling up with that image in my mind. Keeps me very centered and keeps me striking the ball a lot better.
It's amazing, you know, Dane, what you say there. I know this, but it's occurred to me now. You've had me to that aha moment where the internet is rife with stuff, and you know, pressure shifts in the feet, and you know, lateral then rotary then recentering and all this like stuff, and you read this and you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like golf porn stuff. And yeah, you're like, you know, if you were just in a barrel and you turn inside there, all of those elements that people are breaking down, that stuff's got to happen so you don't bang the sides of the barrel.
Exactly. You want to avoid call it the internal checklist of swing thoughts, and just start visualizing good stuff that gets you into those positions without that kind of checklist to move through. However, these things are very important, the ones that you mentioned, but it's going to be impossible to play and actually shoot a score with 7 thoughts in your mind running around there. So that's why we want to keep it simple. I think of technique as well sometimes when I'm practicing, but it's when I'm practicing. It's not when I'm actually playing. Then the furthest I go is these kind of things, different feels that get me to respond to a certain image, frees up the mind, and you're free to focus more on that impact bit besides it. And then you're playing to score, playing to shoot lower scores.
Well, I will add to that too. What you talk about is you will become more athletic. Like the more a golfer ventures along the arc of improvement from beginner to elite, the better you get, the faster you get. And as
Exactly.
you faster, you don't have time to organize all these swing thoughts. Then you become an athlete under pressure. And
Yeah.
these simple images allow athleticism to blossom.
Yeah, a swing happens so fast. I used to be like 99% of golfers, where we're just having those 7 swing thoughts in my head while I'm swinging. But if you really think about it, where the swing is over within, what is it, a second? What are you going to think 7 thoughts about? You're going to be way too late. It's just distracting your mind, and that's what people really need to get away from if they want to shoot lower scores. We're thinking that we're going to be lost if we stop thinking, so to say. That's just not what's going to happen. You want to make sure that everything is in place, and then keep it simple.
I've just had this moment again. You're really highlighting stuff inside of me. And I want to share this before we go into the final insight that you have. And again, more at your Instagram page. Um, I've been in golf forever. I'm 54. I've taught golf since 1996. And I've taught golfers of all skill levels, from major champions to beginners. And as a player, I always thought to play better, I had to swing better. So I was always working on my golf swing. And it's amazing now as I'm listening to you going, you know, all these images, I was never that golfer. So I guess where I'm getting to here, and I want your commentary. It takes a lot of honesty for a golfer, because it sounds like you've done this, to be able to go, man, I'm burdened by all these swing thoughts. I need to simplify this thing, because it's almost, and I recognize this habit within me where I habitually, because I'm a teacher now, as soon as I hit a bad shot, there's 4 or 5 things I'm trying to fix, as opposed to just turn inside this barrel. Are you feeling where I'm going here? This
Yeah,
tension that I have.
yeah. It's the tendency for most people to just instantly start seeking for different moves that they did wrong or things that they forgot to do to make the ball go straight. But I record myself now a lot due to this social media stuff. I can miss a shot way right and way left while the swing is looking very similar. So what's the answer to that? The ball doesn't know how your swing looks. It doesn't care either. All it listens to is what happened at impact. So if you literally just made a swing, but you open that club face a little bit too much, it's gonna go right, whatever is happening. Same with if you close it a little bit too much. So why focus on too many of those things and just focus on, okay, now I need to dial in that club face more at impact. That's going to bring in better outcomes. Instead of that, again, moving towards the internal checklist of the golf swing.
And one more thing, if we're being true to sticking to playing golf, just the slightly open club face or closed club face, that happens. That's not necessarily a mistake. The playing golf is the ability to recover on the next shot. You agree?
Exactly. And that's what you want to practice. That's what you want to, if it happens more often, these misses, then you can start looking at something. But I think people are too quick to judge in that sense and right away move into, okay, we need to change it after one slice, for example. No, you just open the face a little bit too much, get it back to square, and you're going to be good to go. Or you hit it a little bit off the heel, that's it. Instead of just dialing in those technical things, fix that impact, and the ball flight is going to be changing. As simple as it sounds, but that's what people just seem to miss for some reason.
The reality of it. I mean, I shouldn't date this, but just last week I was at the Genesis Invitational there, and it's the best players on the PGA Tour, and I'm on the range, and you can see someone as elite a ball striker as a Tommy Fleetwood just having his caddy kind of just hold his head a little bit because he tends to get a little too low in transition. Simple as
Yeah,
that. And I'm like, here's a guy who everyone wants to swing like, and it's like so simple, his approach to hitting the golf ball.
yeah. He does have an amazing golf swing. I have to say that
Okay.
all of them do.
Final swing thought. This one is right up the golf swing junkies alley. I leave it to last. In transition, so changing from backswing to downswing, you like rather feel an outward push, and the demo was it was showing your footwork, than a downward pull, which is you just tugging on this handle and getting narrow and stuck and stuff like that. So talk about that, because that delicate time between backswing and downswing is so important to good impact.
Yeah. I think, speaking like for myself, the tendency that I always had at the top of the swing is to just pull the hands down, move it towards the ball, get that ball moving somewhere there. However, it gets you to be very narrow kind of in the downswing. You're rushing the transition. So that's why it brought about more of that feel. I also know, like, started studying and talking to people. This is kind of that golf junkie part indeed. It's more of the nerd stuff, but the club is kind of loading onto us into the backswing. So you want to stay wide, feel more of that outward push, feel the grip kind of being pushed outward while you're actually swinging. That is going to keep the body more in its arc, keep the club in its arc with that width, and that will help coming through impact as well. If you're getting too narrow, what tends to happen, usually leave that club face way open or save it last minute, getting that flip in, and then you're in trouble.
I'll be honest, because the outward push, you're talking about the force on the handle almost away from you in transition, which is
Yes.
absolutely on point. I was watching your video, and I was watching as you would do this, that your lower body was still transitioning to the lead side. And I was like, all right, well, he's pushing the lower body forward as the club is in transition over here. But you told
Yeah.
me to handle, not, but I don't want people just to get there and push and stay back. So the body's
Exactly.
forward, but you pushing on the handle.
Has to be the golf swing is a very dynamic motion. So you want to be moving. It's going to sound weird, but you want to start kind of the downswing before you finish the backswing. So start the downswing with that lead side, load into that lead side while the upper body is still twisting to the top. And then from there, use that kind of stretch, that pressure into that lead side to swing through a little bit more powerfully and dynamically. Actually, very important move that indeed you don't want to be pushing those hands out and then stay back. May lead to some iffy shots. So getting that width while moving into that lead side, you're very right there. That's important.
I want to ask this, because a lot of your things are sort of titled "How I Got to a +5 Handicap," "How I Got to a Scratch," thoughts, feels, and such. And now you talk to us about playing golf versus playing golf swing. How much does Dane practice on his short game? Because I'm guessing that to become the elite golfer that you have, it's not just the ball striking. Help our viewers and listeners get this practice stuff right, because so many people are carving on their swing, then they get on and around the greens and they just waste strokes.
Okay, I'm kind of very of a different kind of player. I don't work on my short game as in chipping and that stuff that much. I know people say it's 75% of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It depends for who is talking, like in that sense. If you're the player that hits a lot of greens, which I tend to be, I dial in more of my putting and my kind of wedge distance control. And then the short game, totally honest, it's always been very bad until I started working with a particular coach that has even helped me out a lot the past couple of years. So now I'm kind of becoming better in that sense as well. But the practice wise, the way I kind of tried looking at it is there's 4 parts of the game. We have that kind of long game, we have our approach shots, we have our short game, and we have our putting. So you want to be dialing in all 4 and then see how you like to split your time. It depends on each individual. We can't say it's 25% for everyone per aspect. It's different for every player. One has a tendency to have a worse long game, so to say. The other one has a terrible short game. Then you know where you need to dial your time into. But again, if you hit a lot of greens, then you don't need to be chipping as much. But if you miss a lot of greens, you do. So,
okay, here's the follow-up question. You say hit a lot of greens. What are we averaging? Like 14, 15, more or less? Yes.
I think something around 13, 14. Yeah.
I asked that question because I think a lot of golfers have got a faulty idea of what the elite golfer does. Like the club golfer watching this is like, all right, this guy hits every green in regulation, but you're
Definitely
good.
not. No.
15 or so, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. I definitely do not hit every green. I wish I did. Then we'll be in a different position. No.
Speaking of life being easier, you've made it so much easier for so many people, and I'm so glad you would join us. For the fans who don't follow you yet, please share the Instagram handle and spell it. And if there's a website or wherever they can go, please share that as well.
To spell it's gonna be tricky, but it's Dane Cvetkovic Golf. That is basically the Instagram handle, and then the website is Dane Golf. So DANE golf.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's where people can find me. But
correct me if I'm wrong, Jan. Cvetkovic is CVETK. That's not
yes.
Yeah, Kovic. Yeah, I got it right.
OVIC. Yeah.
Perfect. You're doing great work. It's fun for me to follow and watch because your content is never stale. Everything that's coming out is always fresh. It's always new. There's no regurgitating of stuff. And I'm like, gosh, it's amazing how many different feels and takes you can get on something as simple as a golf swing. And going to your page is something that any golfer is going to benefit from. Just one more question. I noticed that most of these videos you shoot are at night. Are you thinking about golf 24/7?
Basically, yeah. It's something you do. It's something you do nonstop. But at night the ranges are quiet and it looks nice as well. So that's why I'm a lot there in the evenings.
Dane, you're the best, man. I'm so glad you would join us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too. Appreciate it.